The LA Lakers win the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl. I mean, the NBA in-season tournament. The historical significance will shock you. Not to mention Dallas Cowboys are contenders again. The Kansas City Chiefs are continuing to cry about something they have no right to cry about. There needs to be more teams stacking more quarterbacks in the NFL. The Golden State Warriors need to make a significant trade, and we need to keep old people off of escalators. I'll tell you why. Stay tuned. What's up, everyone? Another edition of Tricky Guy Sports. It's your host, Brent Bilski, a.k.a. Double B. What is going on? All right, the Cowboys are now contenders. The Chiefs are crying. My Golden State Warriors have gone wayward. Shohei Ohtani over the weekend got that big boy money, $700 million, now an L.A. Dodger. Huge. I mean, that's crazy. That's more than even soccer players. So there was a lot that happened over the weekend, but I think the most historically significant and the one we have to lead with is, I mean, of course, you know, the Los Angeles Lakers, LeBron James, and the LA Lakers win the first ever NBA in-season tournament championship. I mean, obviously huge historical significance. I know some of you might say, like, well, I mean, it's the NBA in-season tournament. Isn't that kind of like winning the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl or, you know, from semi-pro? Not really. Not really. I mean, they won the first ever. I mean, this Saturday, they won the in-season tournament.
Mr. Moon, since this game doesn't actually count, what exactly is your motivation?
Just look at the
On
dunk.
Saturday, we're going to be playing for the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
Yeah.
White pants.
Yeah, I don't know if I understand what you mean by Mega Bowl.
It's a Mega Bowl. What's not to understand? This is history in the making. You're going to want to tell your grandkids and their grandkids and their grandkids. And when they look back in the annals of history, they're going to be talking about three things: discovery of fire, invention of the submarine, and the Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
NBA in-season
But still,
tournament.
the game doesn't count.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious.
Look at them celebrating.
I've seen it. Oh, yeah, and when we win the game, that big gun's going to shoot off.
The cannon doesn't actually fire, it's a relic.
We're going to win the Mega Bowl. Saturday, 8 o'clock, Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
That's right.
Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
In-season tournament.
Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
In-season tournament. Guys, they won the in-season tournament. Look, they're popping champagne. They are popping champagne. Clearly, this was a huge... I mean, the court was painted blue and red. I mean, the court was painted. They got a cup. They got $500,000. I mean, you know, this was obviously, I mean, this is the first to ever do it. As it was pointed out to me by ESPN, and now this is now a direct quote, the LA Lakers, this was from the headline of the article, just to give you an idea of how huge and what a big deal this was. This was the first line. You can go look this up yourself. The LA Lakers were tied with the Celtics for the most championships in NBA history. But after Saturday, the only team in NBA history to win an NBA Cup was the LA Lakers. So, I mean, if you go by that metric, you know, technically they're now one up on the Boston Celtics, or you can just go with LeBron's quote. I mean, these are, again, direct quotes from these guys. This is how serious and big of a deal this was. As LeBron here points out, I mean, records will be broken, but one thing that will never be broken is being the first to do something. We're the first champs in the in-season tournament, and nobody can ever top that, all right? I mean, this is, you know... Look, man, I mean, who else has done it? You tell me. Who else has done it? MJ got any in-season tournament cups? Does Kobe? Does Wilt? Does Magic? Does Steph? Durant? No, none of them. None of them have the NBA in-season tournament. Clearly, this was a big deal. The court was painted blue. I mean, look, let's try to break down the significance and the history here. I mean, they were the first ones to ever do it, and it was a phenomenal performance. LeBron James, MVP. I mean, this was inspirational stuff. 38 years old, being able to get it done. I don't know what you're missing. I don't know what... I mean, some people are trying to say that this was some kind of weird, just silly, mediocre publicity stunt that really had no significance overall in the entire, you know, sequence of the NBA, and with 60 games still to go, doesn't even really have any momentum or impact going forward. I mean, they got $500,000, and they got a cup. I mean, they got a trophy. Did you see it? That thing was beautiful. They were popping champagne. I mean, clearly somebody was into this.
The trophy's 12 feet high, and it is glorious.
And I mean, you know, let's just break it down. First of all, okay, does it count? Did the NBA season tournament championship count? Technically, no. All right. Technically, apparently, you can Google this yourself. According to, I didn't even know this. Turns out this is like an 83rd game. So the NBA in-season championship that was just played this Saturday over the weekend, Indiana Pacers, LA Lakers, was not even going to count at all towards the regular season standings, or none of the stats will be allowed to be put into the actual averages for the season. So, basically, this game was just off on its own and counts for, it counts, though. They got a cup. They got a cup. It doesn't count towards the regular season standings, and none of the actual numbers will be recorded towards regular season performances for even averages or anything else.
0.0.
But, they got a trophy, and, LeBron did get the MVP. LeBron James was MVP of the in-season tournament.
You the real MVP.
You can't take that away. No matter what you say. Yes, did Anthony Davis have 41 points, 20 rebounds, 5 assists, and 4 blocks, along with Austin Reeves, 28 points and 3 assists for a combined 69 points in that game? And did that maybe make them a little valuable? Maybe. But, LeBron James, that game was, by the way, with his 24, 11, and 4. He was at least third on his team that night in points and rebounds and assist. He was at least third.
You the real MVP.
He was clearly at least the third best, possibly the second best player on the floor that night. That's, that alone, that should prove what? At least still top 5, maybe, the GOAT. This is just continuing to stack significant achievements that are so important and are definitely in the conversation of being brought up as serious reasons to compare him to Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, the others we have on Mount Rushmore. He's the first to ever do this, guys. It's the first ever in-season tournament championship. And yes, could the other ones not have won because technically it didn't exist? It doesn't matter. He's the first. As the quote, look at the quote again, records will be broken, but only one thing that'll never be broken is the first to do something. Michael Jordan's never done it. Kobe never did it. Magic never did it. The court was painted blue. Clearly, this meant something. They painted the courts for this game. So, yes, he was at least the third best performer on his team. And no, it didn't count in any significant way. Even in the regular season, it ended up being an extra game. But, let's also, though, if you really want to, continue to not understand just how important this was, look at the teams that they had to beat in order to get this done. The LA Lakers, to get this NBA in-season tournament, this historic first ever championship, had to beat the Portland Trail Blazers, the San Antonio Spurs, the Utah Jazz, and the Memphis Grizzlies. And yes, are they technically the 4 worst teams in the entire Western Conference with a combined record of 22-63? Yes, but just don't forget, they also, though, had to then beat the Phoenix Suns and the Indiana Pacers, who with their 12-8 and 12-10 record, now you put all those teams combined, they had to beat teams with a combined record of 46-81. Portland, these teams, yes, they're bottom in the league, but they had to beat them, and they did on painted courts. 46-81 is not, even close to 500, but they won. They got a trophy. Did you see that cup? That cup was glorious.
The trophy's 12 feet high. And it is glorious.
The goddamn court was painted blue. I don't know. Some people just don't want to understand the historical significance and greatness of something as, important and historical as this was. How you don't think this doesn't put LeBron back into the GOAT conversation? And clearly still a top 5 player in this league when he was at least the 3rd most valuable player that night on the floor. They had to play the Indiana Pacers after the murderer's row that they went through, guys. They didn't just, beat, Portland and San Antonio and Utah. They had to go beat the Pacers on a blue court. And they had all-star, chances galore on that roster. They have Tyrese Halliburton. 46-81. They won 46 games combined. That's more than 45. You got to say that. Look, we can get into the minutia and into whether this is really important and it doesn't even really count. And but still, with this championship, they can now take just the last 60 games of the season and ride this momentum, this championship momentum that they got all the way to possibly the playoffs. They only have 60 games to go with this and, on their back pocket now, knowing that they can get this done. Sky's got to be the limit, right? I just can't stress enough. Guys, the court was blue and it was red. This was clearly a big deal. I mean, I don't know what to say. They're the first to ever do this. They are the first ones ever, by their own admission. This must be a big deal. Michael Jordan never, got the in-season tournament cup. Kobe never got an in-season tournament cup. It now puts the Lakers ahead of the Celtics. Yes, are they technically tied for NBA Finals? I mean, sure, they both had the same amount of championships, but only one has an in-season tournament championship. Now, the LA Lakers. By that metric, you technically have to put them as one above the Boston Celtics. And I mean, MJ, did he three-peat in his time and do some things like that? Sure, but I mean, that had been done before. I mean, let's be honest. I mean, who really cares? People had three-peated. Matter of fact, Michael Jordan had three-peated before. I mean, how is that even a big deal? This was the first time this was ever done. I mean, yes, Kobe did beat the Indiana Pacers with Hall of Famers like Chris Mullin and Reggie Miller in an actual NBA Finals. But for one, I mean, he didn't go against guys like Tyrese Halliburton. And the court was blue. I mean, that court is clearly, it's blue, it's red, it's got champion. I mean, did Kobe play on a blue court? No. No, he didn't. No, he did not when he beat the Indiana Pacers for his little NBA Finals. People had won the NBA Finals before. Nobody has won an in-season tournament championship before except for this GOAT, except for this king that clearly now puts him, I mean, again, he's got to be top 5. He was at least the third best player on the floor that night, other than the 41 points and 20 rebounds and, 5 assists and 4 blocks from Anthony Davis and 28 points off the bench from Austin Reeves. He was at least third on the team that night in points, rebounds, and assists. I mean, if that doesn't make you an MVP, I don't know what does.
You're the real MVP.
If this doesn't make this historically significant, I don't know what does. If this doesn't put him up there, again, I mean, just stacking significant achievements one after another. I mean, you got to consider in the last 7 years, it has only taken LeBron James 7 years to now win a bubble championship and an in-season tournament first ever historic championship. I mean, Michael Jordan has never done that. He's never won in the bubble. He's never won an in-season tournament. I mean, it only took LeBron from 31 to 38 years old to get this done. I mean, what did Michael do in that time? He won 3 titles? Really? People had already won 3 titles before. Matter of fact, I remember that because Michael had already done it. So from 31 to 38, yes, Michael once again three-peats and wins 3 straight consecutive NBA championships. But none of those were in the in-season tournament, and none of those were, look, what do you want me to say? Some people just can't appreciate greatness, and it's sad. And it's frustrating that you guys don't understand. I mean, yes, the game doesn't count in any way, shape, or form, even towards the regular season. And, I mean, in the end, this has ended up being, a lot of people said a glorified publicity stunt that really had no meaning. I mean, the ratings were up. The courts were painted. They won a trophy. I mean, this is history in the making, guys.
This is history in the making. You're going to want to tell your grandkids and their grandkids and their grandkids.
I don't know what else to say. I mean, winning 3 titles after you'd already won 3 titles from 31 to 38, how is that nearly as impressive as winning an NBA in-season tournament championship and a bubble championship in the same amount of time? It had been done before. He had even done it before. I mean, who even likes repeats? Who really wants to see a repeat? I mean, what do you want to see? Like another Space Jam or another house party? I mean, that's the logic you would have to use to think that 3 NBA championships in a row is more important than what was done. This was the first time this was ever done. No one had ever done this before. The court was blue. The court was blue. I don't even know what to say. The court was, at least 60% blue with a red stripe in the middle. They painted it specifically for this game. When MJ won his championships, it was never on a painted court. Kobe never played on a painted court. And yes, he beat the Pacers, but they didn't have all-stars galore, possible ones like Tyrese Halliburton and I don't get it. Some people just really can't appreciate greatness in their time, and it's too bad because this was, one of the biggest things in the world in the history of ever and ever.
And when they look back in the annals of history, they're going to be talking about 3 things: discovery of fire, invention of the submarine, and the
NBA in-season tournament. NBA in-season tournament will be the 3 things. I mean, this was, as he said, let's look at it one more time. As ESPN pointed out, Boston and LA were tied for championships. LA is now above them in NBA in-season tournament championships. And as LeBron said himself, I mean, clearly records will be broken, but something that will never be broken is the first to do something. They are the first ones to do it, and not you, nor I, nor anyone else can take that away. Nobody can take that away. They are the first. Kobe never did it. Michael never did it. Larry never did it. Magic never did it. I mean, how many Flint, Michigan Mega Bowls have you won? How many Flint, Michigan Mega Bowls have you won?
We're going to win the Mega Bowl Saturday.
They won it. They did it.
Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl. Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl. Flint, Michigan Mega Bowl.
Greatness, all-time greatness, historical greatness. And some of you guys don't think it's a big deal, and it's sad. And I don't know what to tell you, you know. The hate is real, man. The hate is absolutely real. Something else that was real is NFL Week 14. Let's go ahead and get into that. I am going to go ahead and switch topics completely now. This was interesting if you look overall at what happened in the NFL this last week. A couple things here. For one, shout out to the Dallas Cowboys. Dallas Cowboys are starting to really look like a big deal, aren't they? Dallas Cowboys now beat the Seahawks and kick the crap out of the old Philadelphia Eagles there in the matchup game that we were all waiting for. So shout out to Dallas. You got to give them their credit. I mean, this is something, you know, NFL, this whole season. Am I wrong? I mean, has NFL kind of been boring this year? Has it not been nearly, I don't know, other than like Travis and Taylor? I mean, what are we going to remember so far from the NFL this season? It's been kind of a strange, kind of you know, good but not great kind of NFL year. But if you look at the playoff picture now and you look at what's been happening, I think that's one of the big things to mention now is the Dallas Cowboys move from the 5th to the 2nd seed in the NFC playoffs, as I have a little picture here of the current playoff positions. As like I said, they defeated the Eagles yesterday in a kick-ass victory, and I got to go ahead and give it to them. I mean, I'm not even joking around. You know, the sarcasm is done. I really got to shout out, you know, what they are doing out there. They're now 10-3, 6-0 at home. And I mean, yes, they still got Buffalo and they still got Miami on the road for their next two, and they're not nearly as good as they are at home. I mean, but you got to still look at what they're doing in a tough NFC, which ended up being apparently even better and more competitive, at least at the top, than the AFC. When you got San Francisco, Philadelphia, and now Dak Prescott and the Dallas Cowboys, you have to put them up at the tippy top of the possible Super Bowl championship contenders in the entire NFL when they are one of the best three teams in the NFC. And I think clearly now you got to put, I mean, other than the Ravens, you know, on the AFC side, we'll find out more tonight from Miami in their Monday Night Football game. But, I mean, other than that, Kansas City is clearly going to, you know, has taken a back seat there. We do have to talk about that in just a second here. But let's give some love to Dallas. We asked them, they said, you know, hey, we had to play who was in front of us. And they said, when you play somebody real, let's figure it out. And they've done it, man. Dak Prescott, 22 touchdowns in the last 7 games. He has at least 2 touchdowns in his last 7. These are both personal best, and some of these are Cowboys records. The Texas offense now going out there in Dallas. I mean, the Texas Coast offense, as they call it, with McCarthy saying, I need, you know, the playbook. You got to get Kellen Moore out of here. That has worked out phenomenally. I mean, their offense is now number 1 in the entire NFL. CeeDee Lamb is killing. You got guys like Pollard starting to do better. Ferguson is now feasting at tight end. You got Gallup. Excuse me, you got also Turpin out there. Sorry about the cough there. But, I mean, the only one who choked yesterday was Philadelphia. Now, they've had a rough schedule, but still, this was a big head-to-head game. This was a kind of a metric game, and the Dallas Cowboys kicked their ass. Dallas Cowboys, I mean, 33-13, it wasn't even that close. It was an ass-kicking. They've now won 4 straight, and not to mention, this is another thing you want to bring up, too. I bring up the plus-minus as far as their total win-loss, you know, the point differential. They are now plus 168 for the season. The Dallas Cowboys are only second now to the San Francisco 49ers, who were, I think, at like 190 or something. But, I mean, they're still at plus 168. They have the second best plus-minus win total in the entire NFL so far. Dak Prescott looks like the MVP. They just took out their main rival in the Philadelphia Eagles handedly. I mean, this is all, their defense continues to look good, continues to get turnovers. Micah Parsons is doing his thing. I mean, overall, you really have to go shout out to Dallas, man. Now, they still got their big test coming up on the road. This is where the rubber's really going to meet the road, pun intended, with Buffalo and Miami coming up next. But, I mean, still, you know, looking at this season, and yes, it's still going to all come down to the very end. It's all going to come down to the playoffs. But what they did so far, you have to just tip your hat and say, all right, you guys are legit. We really have to start taking the Dallas Cowboys much more seriously than we were when they were beating nothing but tomato cans and we didn't really know much about their record. They've now gone against the Seattle, and they've now gone against a Philadelphia and have reestablished their presence with some Bull Durham-like authority there. So shout out to the Cowboys, as it looks like they really do have a shot, a real shot this year to win the entire thing. On the other side, and not so good news when it comes to your football team.
All the news about your football team ain't been good news.
Kansas City Chiefs and Patrick Mahomes, cry me a frickin' river. Look, I get it. It's tough. You're used to being on top. This is kind of the new Patriots in a way with Tom Brady and them constantly going to the AFC Championship game. It feels like Mahomes kind of just took that reins from Brady and the Patriots, and then, a little bit of stint with the Buccaneers, and moved on and made the new Chief franchise the same thing, and now they're starting to struggle a little bit. I mean, Chiefs are 8-5. You could say they're the mischiefs. The mischiefs. I mean, this is something we're not used to seeing. The penalties and the struggles and the drops, and Patrick Mahomes got 11 interceptions. So there's been some things going on that we're not used to seeing. But I do want to talk about for a second this so-called sad story about what happened yesterday. And yes, was that an amazing play? Travis Kelce lateraling the ball, against Buffalo in order to get that last-second touchdown. The crowd's going crazy. Taylor's in the stands going nuts. I mean, it was a phenomenal play, and, that's all cool and that's all great, and it was great improvisation by Travis Kelce in the middle of a clutch moment in an important game. But the fact is, not even the Chiefs are arguing that Tony wasn't offsides. Tony was clearly, his foot was on the line. Does it not get called very often? No. Is it, in the big thing of swing or the importance of the play, did it really affect anything? No. But, I mean, no one's even arguing, including Patrick and the Kansas City Chiefs, that the rule was broken. Tony was offsides. They threw the flag before the play happened. As great as that play was, and as cool as a comeback as it would have been, as much as it would have been a big momentum shift and a mover for the Chiefs going forward and knocking out the Buffalo Bills from playoff contention, all that would have been great, and if I had wheels, I'd be a wagon. Tony was offsides. So now you got Patrick Mahomes after the game bitching, up and down and left and right about how unfair it was, and none, and whine, and cry. And the first thing that pops in my head with that is like, that's phenomenal. It's phenomenal that you can be that short-sighted and that much of a dick when you got to consider that just last year, a ticky-tack call is what saved your entire season and won you a Super Bowl. Let's not forget that. And I really do think we have to mention that. A lot of people have forgotten this was just last season against the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. What was it, 2 minutes left in a tie game? And then this penalty happened where they called a little ticky-tack holding on the Philadelphia Eagles that allowed the Chiefs to go ahead and run the clock out and kick a game-winning field goal. That was also a ticky-tack call. I can't let this go. You have to look at this one more time and be reminded just what type of little, yes, it sucks sometimes when a call doesn't go your way, but when it does, I don't see him or anyone else on the Chiefs franchise bitching. Remember this? I remember this.
Lofting one, end zone incomplete. Juju Smith-Schuster couldn't catch up. There's a flag at the 10. Hang on, there's a penalty.
35-35, $1.50 left in the Super Bowl. Bradbury barely touches this Kansas City receiver on a 3rd and 8. Would have had to kick a field goal, would have gave Philadelphia plenty of time.
To the pass, holding, number 24, defense, 5-yard penalty, automatic, first down.
Yeah, that's worst case scenario. You'll see James Bradbury, they're going to say he grabs him. Got his left hand on his back. I don't know. Mike, listen, I think on this stage, I think you let him play. Obviously, Mahomes thought he saw it.
Look at Mahomes, too. Look at him refereeing.
I don't know. I think you let him play, finish this thing out. I don't love that.
Yeah, a lot of people didn't love that call. Patrick sure did, though. Boy, he was pointing and making that call. But now it's supposed to be hands across America for Patrick and the Chiefs because, yes, it was an amazing play by Travis Kelce. But by your own admission, you were offsides. The idea that, it doesn't get called very often, you did it. It was a penalty. They called a correct penalty. You cannot offset a correctly called penalty because the play following afterwards was more awesome than the penalty itself. I mean, I don't even understand. I'm still recovering from sickness, excuse me. But I mean, I'm also sick by this. I can't believe that he actually had the balls. And that the Chiefs and the fan base continues to come out and say things like, oh, it's so unfair. It's so unfair. We should have beat Buffalo, and they actually called a correct call that didn't end up going our way, unlike the Super Bowl last year where a ticky-tack call was able to give us the chance to run out the clock and kick a field goal to win the entire thing. Now it didn't work in our way, and we're upset about it. bite me. I mean, what do you want me to say? Cry. I mean, honestly, cry me a river.
Cry me a river, you fat baby. You disgust me.
I feel nothing for the Kansas City Chiefs or what happened. And shout out to Buffalo for continuing to try to push their season. They could really be a problem. Buffalo Bills, by the way, really could be a problem if they continue to somehow eke out the rest of this regular season and make their way to the playoffs. They are always going to have a lot of chances to win with the talent that they have on their side of the ball. But the big thing I wanted to discuss, and this is something I really wanted to break down, was more into what's happening overall in the NFL this season. This is kind of a different take, and I want to get y'all's thoughts on this. The entire league may need to start doing something. And I think, looking at the Chiefs and Mahomes is a perfect example, because one thing I almost forgot in all of my kind of picking on Kansas City for crying about something that really they have no reason to cry about, when just last year it ended up working out in your favor.
Crying all the time. Quit crying. Just a push-up or something.
Another thing that has affected Kansas City, and it's something you have to really consider, and something that leads me into the next part of this conversation, is the fact that Patrick Mahomes did ask and got his big boy money. Patrick Mahomes flat out, he had a 10-year, $450 million deal, and decided instead, I want to make more money than that. I want a 4-year record-setting, it was, how much was it again? It was $450 million. Then it went to 210, so over $50 million a year over the next 4 years is still the fourth highest, even with Ohtani's new contract, is the fourth highest contract in all of professional sports. So you decided to restructure your contract to make sure you were one of the highest paid people in not just the NFL, but in all of professional sports. Money. And you know what? Good for you. Get your bag, get your money. But the fact is now they've had to make adjustments because there's just not as much to go around, because once you spend that money on a quarterback, you don't have money for wide receivers. Don't have money, to keep the Tyreek Hills and other people of the world. And so the NFL, even more than it ever has really become, your starting quarterback is not only your main investment if you really want a chance to win a Super Bowl at any point in time in the near future. I'm going to now make the point that from now on, you need to also continue to draft NFL quarterbacks first and second round, even if you have your starting quarterback, even if you have a Patrick Mahomes or a Joe Burrow or somebody where you just we know this is our franchise guy going forward. I really think that everyone in the NFL you're going to see in the next few years is going to come to the realization that you're going to have to start going by committee, because there is nobody, and I mean nobody, making it through 2023 alive, it seems like, in the quarterback position. It has been phenomenal. I got a little, this will be a quick reminder for people that have forgotten. Aaron Rodgers, gone the first, the week of the first 4 plays of the season. Justin Herbert, by the way, out again with a broken finger. Joe Burrow, 2 injuries now. He's out for the season. Justin Fields was able to come back recently, but he's had a lot of missed time. Matt Stafford has been banged up all year. Anthony Richardson is now out for the season for the Indianapolis Colts. Daniel Jones is now out for the season for the New York Giants. Ryan Tannehill is out. Deshaun Watson is now out for the season. They're starting Joe Flacco. Kyler Murray is still barely coming back, but the Cardinals are no longer relevant this year. Kenny Pickett, has been replaced by Trubisky, and both of them have been, dumpster fire, but that's a whole different story. Trevor Lawrence just, sprained his ankle. Derek Carr has been in and out. Bryce Young has been in and out. Jimmy Garoppolo has been replaced. Brock Purdy has now been able to come back, but he's had issues. Kirk Cousins is out for the season. Now C.J. Stroud has joined this list, along with Geno Smith and others. It has been a nonstop, just sob story. It really has been sad this year how many of the starting quarterbacks in the NFL have gone down, many of them for the season, and many of them with playoff teams. You look, again, A-Rod, D. Jones, Cousins, Richardson, Watson, Burrow are all out for the year. Now C.J. Stroud is in concussion protocol. Now Herbert has a fractured finger. Geno Smith has been banged up. This is not even all of the quarterbacks. In Week 14 alone, and I think this is worth mentioning, I was looking at this as I was looking at passing leaders for the week in Week 14. These are all these quarterbacks started or played significant minutes in just this last Week 14. Flacco for Cleveland, Wilson for the Jets, Browning for Cincinnati, and shout out to Browning, actually doing great for the Bengals, Locke for Seattle, Zappi for New England, Minshew for Indiana, Trubisky for Pittsburgh, Easton Stick for the LA Chargers, O'Connell for Las Vegas, Nick Mullins, now the third quarterback out there in Minnesota. You got Mills in Houston because now C.J. Stroud banged his head. If I'm an NFL team right now, this is something I really wanted to bring up now that I've kind of brought it all full circle. I don't know how or why every single year I'm drafting quarterbacks. I am now going college level, quarterback by committee, because you can't afford a lot of expensive backups, but you can afford a lot of late first and second round quarterbacks. So even if I am Cincinnati, even if I am Kansas City, even if I am the Chargers, and or the Cowboys, or any of these teams that have their quarterback, they're like, this is our guy going forward and for the future. I have just seen it this year more than almost any other year, quarterback after quarterback going down. I just got to think you're going to have to start going ahead, and even though you may not quote-unquote need it at the time, you're going to have to keep a lot of quarterbacks stacked. And the best way to do it is through the NFL draft, because the average decent backup nowadays is going to cost you $5 to $7 million a year. It is still cheaper, and you're going to get, a younger guy and a more talented guy to go the draft route. Even in the late first round, early second round, you're usually averaging around, like $3-4 million a year. And I don't care. I got to have at least 2 or 3 on my roster that I think can get things done. There has been way too many seasons just, completely gone to the wind this year, and too many important games being decided by, again, Locks and Zappies and Minshews and Mullins and O'Connells and Sticks. These guys that really, really can't win you a game. Whether it causes controversy, whether it causes, tension in the locker room, whether it creates, issues between the starting quarterback feeling threatened because you keep drafting other quarterbacks, I just wouldn't give a shit. I am going to go ahead and every single year, maybe every year, draft. I got to have at least 2-3 quarterbacks. I have to have at least 2-3. I don't care if I keep some on the scout team. I am now just not spending money and heavy investment on my starter, but I got to worry about having a good, legit backup that is going to probably at least, even on a good season, probably at least play 3 or 4 significant games, and most likely, like a Cincinnati or some of these other teams, might have to carry me through the rest of the year and give me my best chance at winning, and not wasting an entire season. It's been crazy. That's besides the Cowboys contending, besides the Chiefs crying, to me the biggest story of the week and the biggest story of the season continues to be how many NFL quarterbacks and the big important teams in the big important position are going down. They're going down left and right. So I thought that was interesting. Looking at the time, do I have time for this? I'm going to go ahead and throw this in here. Speaking of sad stories, I got to talk about my Golden State Warriors. Jesus H. Christ. It has been a nightmare for me as a Golden State Warriors fan. Let me go ahead and bring up the lowlights here. Latest loss was to the Oklahoma City Thunder, again, in overtime, again, where they both times had the game in hand, both times up 3 with only a few seconds left, and found a way to snatch a loss from the hands of victory. This team, this is my favorite team. I have to discuss them at least for a minute, because this was a team that started the season off 6-2 and looked like they had a real chance at least competing again in the Western Conference. And then, of course, Draymond gets suspended for the 5th time in his NBA career. They go on to lose the next 6. They are now 10-12 and are 11th in the West, once again losing a heartbreaker in overtime to the Oklahoma City Thunder. They have now had 2 20-point leads blown in the same week. That was just last week. They blew a 24 and a 22-point lead in the exact same week. Those are the second and third worst losses of the Steve Kerr era when it comes to blown leads. The 29 turnovers that they committed, by the way, 29. I got to repeat that a third time. 29 turnovers that they committed against Oklahoma City was also the worst in the Kerr era and in the last 20 years for the Golden State Warriors. Their small ball is killing them. They can't seem to compete against these longer, more athletic teams. As more and more you've seen the rest of the league readjust from the small ball nonsense that Kerr stubbornly clings to, and have now moved back into finding 7-footers that can do a lot of different things, a la the top teams in the Western Conference, the Minnesota Timberwolves, the Denver Nuggets, the Oklahoma City Thunder, with Chet Holmgren, who killed them both times at the end of those games because we had nobody to truly match up with Chet Holmgren and that 7 foot and that agility and that size there. It has just been a continued nightmare. And this idea that they are trying to cling to, which is that there's no need to panic. I'm sorry. This is not time to keep your composure. No, it's not.
We can't have anyone freak out there,
nope.
Okay? We gotta keep our composure.
No.
We've got too far. There's too much to lose. Keep our composure.
Yeah, it's time to lose your composure, Golden State, because the fact is the season is once again dwindling, and it's the definition of insanity a little bit, because you're kind of doing the exact same thing that you did last season. And I really don't, it's tough because they don't really have a lot of assets or a lot of things that they can do to make a big splash. But I do think it's time to make a big splash. And I don't think you have to go ahead and take away the core of Steph, Clay, and Dre. As much as I think Draymond Green would be the perfect trade bait or the perfect one to move, it would be too emotional and there would be too much nonsense and crying and, a bunch of bitching between the guys because Draymond is, for whatever reason, the favorite of Steph Curry and Klay Thompson and Steve Kerr, which I don't quite understand. The guy continues to go ahead and be just a thorn in our side and was the reason the 6-game losing streak started with that stupid-ass, choke of Gobert. But I can't cry about it because, they're not going to do it. So rather than do what I would like to do, what should they actually do? And one of the things I think that would actually work is trading Andrew Wiggins. If there's somebody that could use a change of scenery and somebody who's not actually part of the core that makes Golden State, and somebody that does have at least some youth, some value, and I think would be the one of the people that with Moody and Kuminga and some of the other young guys is the one that is the most quote-unquote replaceable or expendable in this main core that they have now included with Chris Paul. I would continue to keep Chris Paul mainly because, turnovers are their biggest issue, and usually Chris Paul is a very, short-handed ball handler and is somebody that you can rely on to, get the offense to run smoother. And Andrew Wiggins, I'm going to go back to the sad music here because he's just been awful this year. He's a turnover machine. He's not mentally in the game. His stats are abysmal this year, 12.6 points per game, 4.4 rebounds, and 1 assist in 28 minutes played. He's only shooting 28% from threes, 42% from the field, 63% from the free throw line. He was the leader of the team in their 29 turnovers against Oklahoma City with 6. And he just looks checked out. Andrew Wiggins, of anyone on the team, even more than Klay Thompson, looks mentally not there, not confident. He looks like he could use a change of scenery more than maybe anybody else on the roster. And, it's been a long road with him. Yes, we had the NBA Finals where he did great. But we also had the Andrew Wiggins who almost didn't play the entire first season because he didn't want to take the vaccine. Then we had Andrew Wiggins who missed the last 21 games last year. And it was, sad his dad was sick, but still, you got to add that into there. Then he's also had injuries. Then just last week, he missed an entire week because he slammed his finger in a car door. Now he's turning the ball over. A lot of games he looks checked out. He's shooting 28% from threes. There's a chance to make a shakeup and a chance to make a move. I got to think you got to do it with Wiggins because he's the one that at least has some value. And, other GMs could say in a resurgent situation could actually maybe be the Andrew we saw not just maybe 1 or 2 years ago. That was the second most important player for their NBA championship run. What can you get at this level with his value this low? The one I want is Lauri Markkanen. And there's at least been possibilities and discussions that Golden State would look at a Lauri Markkanen because Utah Jazz are struggling, and the Utah Jazz are at least, in the trade rumor discussion. He is a 7-foot, 26-year-old Finnish sensation that can shoot, that can score, and is also not that expensive. As I show you here, this is the guy I'm talking about. 26-year-old, the finisher, as they call him, can shoot the three. This is exactly what Golden State needs. If they can't find him specifically, we need somebody like this. Can finish around the rim, is young, has got some moxie, was an all-star just last year. And oh, by the way, is cheap. That's the other reason this guy works perfectly in a trade situation if we can get Utah to take the bait because he's only costing them $18 and $17 million the next 2 years. Just signed a contract a couple years ago when he wasn't an all-star. So he's a value for an already expensive Golden State roster that's spending way too much money now with all the new NBA salary cap taxes and everything else. But this guy can really go, man. And he's 7 foot tall. No more 6'9" Kevin Looneys and 6'10" Sarges who are doing the best that they can, and God bless him. He is a true 7-footer. He just averaged last year, 25.6 and 8.6. He was an all-star. He only cost $18 million. Do I actually think the Golden State Warriors can get Utah to bite on this? Probably not. I mean, the fact is, Utah also knows everything I just said. They're the ones who see him every day. He is only 26, and he does still fit their timeline, even though they're rebuilding. And while actually the NBA trade machine would allow a straight-up trade for Wiggins and Markkanen, to switch out, the contracts actually work out in that situation. I mean, if I'm Utah, I'm going to want at least, a couple first-round picks. Golden State doesn't have a lot of first-round picks to trade. They're tied up right now through previous deals, so they really couldn't even trade first rounders until 26, 27, 28. I probably want a Kuminga, and I would do it. I would do, Wiggins, Kuminga, and a first round or something if that brought Markkanen into the roster. I don't know exactly what they're going to do, and I don't know exactly what they can do, but I do know the Golden State Warriors have officially, it's no longer just like, oh, this is a little bit of a struggle or this is a little bit of a slump. This is a continuing issue and prevailing fact at this point. You're undersized, you're undisciplined, you can't, control the ball, your guys look checked out, and you really have no chance to win an NBA championship with the roster currently constructed. Unless you guys go on a run. I mean, the good thing that's been the frustrating part of the Golden State Warriors this entire season is the fact that they actually, in order to blow 24 or 22-point leads, you have to be up 24 or 22. Steph Curry is still one of the best players on the planet. I mean, they still have a lot of things you can look at and go, they are right there, but they're not. If you watch them like I watch them, they're not. That game against Oklahoma City was embarrassing. Watching them lose 2 20-point leads in the same week is embarrassing. Watching Draymond be able to choke somebody, get suspended, come back, act like nothing's going on, still get technicals, and still act like an ass is embarrassing. Watching Wiggins get multiple turnovers and, have them miss games because now he's slamming his finger in car doors, and Klay Thompson looking like only half of himself half the time. Something big needs to be done. I don't think you have to do anything involving Steph, Klay, or Dre. I would like to see Dre, but I don't think they're going to do it. And he really makes the most sense. Wiggins for Markkanen makes the most sense. I don't know if they'll do it, but I'm going to go ahead and put it out there because it's my podcast. You can kiss my ass. I'll do what I want. Set this building on fire. I don't give a shit. All right, those are the main things I wanted to discuss today. LeBron made, obviously, the greatest history of all time with his NBA in-season tournament championship. Cowboys are contending. The Chiefs are crying. And the Warriors need to do something. I would propose trying to get Wiggins to somehow get to Utah and bring back Lauri Markkanen. But those are just my thoughts on that. Let's end the show with some video.
You seen it? You seen it? Don't look at me. Don't look at me, little puppet. Have you seen this? Have you read about this?
Favorite part of the end of the show, a little bonus feature just to cleanse the palate and enjoy ourselves. Let's watch dumbass people do dumbass things. We could start off with this guy, power lifter, at home. And, these strong men, these Arnolds, they want to get the pump. They want to be the strongest and that. And they do all these weird, if you ever watch the strongmans, they do a lot of these goofy competitions. And they make him do all these weird training rituals. So I guess this guy was practicing at home with like half a barbecue grill or something. And it doesn't go well. Doesn't go well at all. I mean, please do not try this at home. He's going to pick up this weird no spotter by himself in the backyard. Strong guy. You can tell he's strong, but this is just, yeah. Believe it or not, this doesn't go well. I mean, let's just see that again because that is just, damn. Look at Homeboy's face at the end of this. Yeah, pick it up. Pick it up, hotshot. You got it. You got it. By yourself, no one behind you. Oh. I got to go back to the face. That face right here. Let me get to it. That is just ay, ay, ay. Ay, ay, ay. I mean, I don't know what happened to this guy. I hope he's all right. I hope he's not significantly brain damaged. But, I mean, that was bad. That was a bad idea all the way around.
I ain't got a good brain.
Bad idea all the way around. This one is also a bad idea. I wish I can say that I don't have these same thoughts or that I wouldn't want to do something kind of similar to this. But, I mean, you can't do it. I know that. I know for a fact that you cannot do this as much as I even think sometimes when I'm on the road myself that I'd really like to do it.
I like that idea, and I will support it.
You cannot do this when you're driving. I'm sorry.
Oh, my God, buddy. You're making me, man, fuck all that. Oh, gotta move. You in my lane. You in my lane.
I get it. Look, I mean, I I understand it's hard for bikers to find places to go, and that they have a right to things as much as everybody else. But god dang it, when you're in a hurry and you're driving and you got these idiots in your lane with their little tights on and everything,
you're making me, man, fuck all that. Oh, gotta move. You in my lane. You in my lane.
Yeah, I can't do it. You can't do it.
Idea, and I will support it.
I will not support it because you can't do it. As much as I say I would like to do it, there's a lot of things I would like to do that I can't do. You cannot do what he just did. I don't care how annoying they are. You cannot crush bikers from behind in your car simply because they're in your lane. All right? Apparently it's illegal.
I don't get it. I don't get it.
They are annoying, though. This one is not just, this is more just sad than annoying. This is just, I'm going to show this one kind of quick. Even golfing is dangerous in 2023, apparently. When you have, I don't know, just the most brittle bones on the planet. Watch this. Oh! I'll rewind that. You heard the pop. I mean, this guy, I don't know how or why or what happened or how this even went down. And someone asked on the comments, is it fake? It's not fake. Snapped. Ow! I mean, that can't look, that face at the end, that cannot be a fake face there. This is not the face of somebody who is not in serious pain. And I mean, that ankle just snapped, man. I don't even know what happened. Ow! Ow! Careful. Careful out there. Okay, here's the last ones I wanted to do. This is something like I said, I got to do it kind of quick today. I'm running out of time. But I mean, these are just in general, old people. They're getting pranked. They're having all sorts of hard times out there, but they can still serve a purpose, all right?
I guess they're right. Senior citizens, although slow and dangerous behind the wheel, can still serve a purpose.
They can.
I'll be right back. Don't you go dying on me.
And you know how you keep them from dying? You keep them off of escalators. I think I've shown this one before, but I got another one right behind it. So in case you missed this the last time, we got to keep old people off escalators. This is something that is key and that is important. There's something about hitting the 85 to 90 range where this just, you get ballsy. I think you get risky. You're almost at the end of life, so why not, try to ride up the side of the escalator? I'll tell you why. Even if you have a spotter, because you fall backwards in your gown, and eventually your crotch is going to be showing. I mean, it's just, it's just a mess. It's just a mess all the way around. So, I mean, that's not the only example, though, I have of escalators and old people going wrong. Saw this one just yesterday and thought I'd bring it to you. So here we go again. Sweet old lady. Got her shopping cart. I'm going to go ahead and go down the escalator here. I wouldn't recommend it because you're about to do an entire full, there you go. There she goes. One more time, 2 more times, 3 more times. See it all the way from the beginning. Got to keep old people off escalators. They still serve a purpose, just not on anything that can escalate.
I guess they're right. Senior citizens, although slow and dangerous behind the wheel, can still serve a purpose.
I'll be right back. Don't you go dying on me.
And don't you go crying on me, but I got to go. It was fun. I'll talk to you next time. Bye.